Good day, everybody. Thanks for coming. I'm Dr. Darrell Wolfe, and this is Jay Lee. Jay Lee is actually the CEO of Prenuvia. And I'll make it kind of short and sweet, but the reason why I got involved with Prenuvia is because there's not another calcium product that actually works. There is no calcium products that work out there. The only one that actually works is Prenuvia, and you're going to find that out tonight. But it doesn't just work as a calcium product. Calcium is the most abundant mineral in the human body. Do you know why? Because it does more than anything else in the human body. And you're going to see tonight that this one product alone can change a life, save a life. It can get people that are in really debilitating condition and in diseases that they say that are incurable. And it'll actually turn the body on to reverse it. And I'll give you testimonials tonight and people just lately that we've been working with in our clinic that are beyond surprising. So this is Jay Lee, and I'll let him take it away, and I'll just be off to the side here.
Thank you, Dr. Wolfe. Good evening. It's definitely my joy and honor to be here and get this opportunity to present what I consider to be one of the most amazing products, especially as far as the calcium is concerned. As Dr. Wolfe mentioned, well, calcium is the most studied nutrient out there because it actually does so many things in our bodies, but then a lot of doctors are puzzled and confused because of all those years of recommending calcium products to patients. They've seen skyrocketed incidence of heart disease and all the calcification in the body. So your bone is losing calcium as you age. But then we thought, okay, then why don't we just get calcium into our system and automatically somehow we'll go to bones, right? But then it never happened. It ended up everywhere else in your body but bones, right? So we do have a lot of calcium problems, and today I'd like to really present the science behind of this unique calcium that will resolve all the calcium issues out there. So this is calcium for calcium problems, right? So I do represent Prenuvia. So what kind of calcium problems do we have? Because of our diet, we are putting a lot of garbage into our system, and that makes our body more acidic. So our body has to take out calcium or use calcium to neutralize the acidity created by all this junk food. And if you are also getting older, you probably know that you have some indigestion problem. You cannot digest food very well. That's all because the acidity, the power of stomach acid is actually decreasing with age. And calcium really needs strong acidity to process and bring into your system. That's why some of you are kind of recommended to maybe take some lemon juice with your meal and all that. That's because you don't have enough acid power in your stomach to be able to digest calcium and bring it into your system. So that's another issue. We have calcium intake issue. But the bigger problem is not calcium intake. And there are a lot of products out there, though we recommend that you take your calcium from a natural food instead of calcium supplements. Even if you get that calcium in your system, the problem is, as we age, we cannot utilize that calcium very well. It goes into your body as what's called protein-bound calcium. All the calcium, whether you're getting it from food or whether you're getting it from supplements, it needs help of vitamin D, peptide, and it's going into your system through a duodenum as protein-bound calcium. Now, don't think that protein-bound calcium goes to work right away, because protein-bound calcium is just standby calcium, right? It's not physiologically active. Our body cannot use protein-bound calcium unless calcium ions from that protein-bound calcium is detached. Then your body can use that calcium ion. Calcium ion is the only form of calcium your body can utilize. But then, when we are living more sedentary lifestyle, we like to lounge around and not doing much of bone-stressing exercises, what's going to happen? Your body is not going to utilize that protein calcium. So that's a big issue. You're getting calcium into your system, right? It's not calcium deficiency, really. With American diet or Western diet, you get a lot of calcium in your system, but you're not able to utilize it. That's the problem, right? So instead of helping you, it may end up calcifying your body, okay? So lack of exercise and sedentary lifestyle. Another one is stress and fear. All of that emotional stress, as you go through that unrelieved stress, right, the cortisol, is going to be causing a lot of calcification, a lot of issues in your body. But here is, in a way we say a calcium dilemma, right? You're getting calcium in your system, but because you cannot utilize that calcium, your body still thinks you're calcium deficient because our body needs calcium ion. But if you cannot utilize protein calcium, where do you think your body's going to get that needed calcium ion right away? Your heart needs calcium ion to pump. Your muscle needs calcium ion to contract. All your system, whether it is nervous system, endocrine system, even cellular level, everything involves calcium ion because the major signaling molecule. But then if you're running low of that, then your body's going to reach out to your bones to get that calcium ion needed. So it's absorbed, but then a lot of the calcium you're putting in is unused. And so if you, let's say, start taking calcium supplements, if I put just more and more of it, then I might be able to utilize it. It's not true. The more of that calcium, especially from the supplement you're taking, like 1,000 milligram, 500 milligram, all that calcium, that huge influx of protein-bound calcium in your system, it's not going to be utilized, so it's going to be ending up in the wrong places. So a German study found a significant increased risk of a heart attack among women taking calcium supplements. Now, how many of you are taking calcium supplements regularly thinking that it's going to help you, right? Well, here's a surprise. Up to 20%, some studies say, you have increased the risk of a heart attack. Not just artery, but then soft tissues and cellular levels. That's really setting yourself up for about 147 degenerative diseases that's coming because of calcium displacement. So if you're just looking at your bone, looks like it's, well, the bone density is going down, and thinking that, oh, I'm approaching osteopenia, and I'm probably going to get to osteoporosis, and thinking that you have calcium deficiency. But if you look elsewhere, the rest of your body, you may be having too much calcium. So it's calcium displacement. That's the problem. That's going to throw off your calcium homeostasis. When that happens, you're setting up for a lot of degenerative diseases.
If I can say something, Jay, and the thing that everybody needs to understand here is you no longer have to have osteopenia or osteoporosis. This product, which is not even a product, it's actually a treatment, okay? You can have the bone structure of a 35-year-old person at any age of your life, and you can have osteoporosis even to the point that your bones are crumbling, and reverse this. Now, it may sound to be too true, but understand something. This is all scientifically backed and verified. So, you know, I got to tell you that everybody who takes the product, even though they may be just taking it for a bone problem, or they might even have a disease like cancer, they find so many different things and so many symptoms leave. You have to understand something. You know all those deficiencies and all those different supplements you need to take? Well, you can pretty well push them all off the table. And you think about that. Everybody talks about alkalinity. What's more important than making bone and breaking bone for alkalinity in the human body? Think about that for a second before anybody tries to sell you on anything else. Okay? If you could remember, you're not taking a supplement. You're taking a treatment that is actually going to restore the natural process of making bone and breaking bone the way you were when you were younger. How would you like that? So, like I have a lady, and I don't mean to take over for him, but I have a lady that just called us, and I did an audio on her, and it's going to be up on my website. So, in 3 months, okay, she has severe osteoporosis. It's 30% resolved already. Her doctor can't believe it. And I told her, well, that's 3 months. Now, 9 months to 12 months, she'll be completely turned around. And that is not a false claim. So the reality is you've got to think about, what's really going to help you. And the thing is think about this. Think about all the health companies that are selling calcium supplementation that's actually doing you harm and getting away with it.
Thank you, Dr. Wolfe. Astronauts, they go up into space and spend 6 months in space station. They come down with about 14% average loss of bone mass. Some of them lost actually 30%. That means you're going up into the space station, let's say you're 30, 40 years old, and then you come down with 80-year-old bone health. Now think about it. They're taking very, very, probably the most advanced food up there, right? Providing all the nutrients needed. They're not getting calcium. They're getting calcium, enough protein calcium. But because of lack of gravity, their bones are not stressed. It's not challenged. So all these protein calciums are not utilized. So where is the body getting the needed calcium ion? If it's not getting it from protein calcium, it's reaching out to your bones. Okay? So calcium ion is good for muscle and heart contraction, of course, bone and teeth, blood clotting, stem cell regulation is very important. The neurotransmitter, that's how the synapses are firing. Fertilization, hormone secretion, enzyme activation, immune system for it to properly function, you need calcium ion. To really good cell membrane stability, you need calcium ion. And all the cells, when it goes through its functions, and especially when it goes through that mitosis of cell division, it's communicating in a very complex language. Amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, just like our radio, the signals are transmitted. That's how our cells are communicating through calcium ion. And if you have too much of there or too little of calcium ion, then cells cannot communicate properly. And guess what? That's when cells divide with errors. Mutation happens. They could lead to cancer, right? But this actually happens to everybody. Everybody, that's how it is. We are building our bone up to age 35. You know that you have total turnover in your skeleton every 7 years? Our bone metabolism, the calcium goes in and out, in and out, in and out. But then the entire skeleton is changed every 7 years. And you do it about 5 times in your lifetime. So about age 35, you will reach the peak density. And then from then on, it's downhill. Especially women, after menopause, it's accelerated. So you can kind of compare the bone density curve with male and female. You will see that the big dip, right, that's always the women's. So, knowing what calcium ion does in our system, look at this. In cellular level, it's involved in every function, right? Without calcium ion, our cells cannot do anything. Right? An endocrine system. And I can show you a video. You will see in this video.
혈액 속의 칼슘 농도가 낮아지면 왜 마비 증상이 일어나는 것일까?
Read the subtitles.
쥐의 심장 근육을 이용해 칼슘이 실제 근육 운동에 어떤 역할을 하는지 확인했다. 쥐의 심장에 칼슘이 함유되어 있는 용액을 주입해주자 심장이 계속 뛰는 것을 확인할 수 있다.
This actually happens. But the moment the solution is cut off and replaced with a solution without calcium ion, stops right away. That's what calcium ion does. That's why when your body needs about 700 to 800 milligrams of calcium a day, right? Of course you need to get the calcium from a good source. your body has to maintain a good concentration of calcium in ionic form. That's why about 50% of calcium in your blood is it's calcium ion. 45% protein calcium. Now the protein calcium can be utilized or not utilized, right? But it's there as standby calcium, right? This is how typically all the calcium is absorbed in your system, right? Digestion is needed, vitamin D, peptide, and it goes into your system as protein-bound calcium. But today, I had to actually move the file from the Mac to a PC, and some of the fonts are not there. So today, I'd like to introduce to you what we call the invention of new calcium. It's an invention of new calcium because this calcium does not exist naturally. It's lab-made, but then it is natural in its way that it is absorbed in our system. Right? It is the world's first ionic calcium delivery system. That means no longer calcium will be absorbed in your system as protein-bound calcium, but directly in ionic form. Calcium ions. It diffuses through your system, and it ends up as ionic calcium, and it goes to work right away. Right? So this is how it looks like. It looks just like calcium carbonate, and to your right, you will find regular calcium carbonate with a strong pi bonding. Calcium has pi bonding in nature. But then we have replaced that pi bonding with very different kind of bonding, which is called sigma anti-bonding. Now, because this is a very weak bonding, it still has that ionic charge, right? So we call it sigma anti-bonding calcium carbonate. And this is a result of 10 years of intense research and development. Now, what is sigma anti-bonding? It's a kind of chemical bonding that is very weak and of high energy. So molecules do not want to stay together. It wants to actually go to the lower energy state, which is more stable. So in nature, you're not going to find any molecule with sigma anti-bonding stable. But we made it possible. For the first time, you will have a molecule that's only available in our bottle that has sigma anti-bonding stable. This is how it looks. Sigma anti-bonding looks very small. You see that the bonding compared to the regular calcium strong pi bonding, it's a very weak bonding. Therefore, it is about 200 times more soluble. And you can look at the chemical equation how regular calcium carbonate gives off calcium ion and carbonate, but SAC calcium actually gives off calcium ion, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. Now here's my question. Do you find anything here that your body cannot handle? Calcium ion, oxygen, carbon dioxide, right? Our body is used to it. Right? Our body knows how to handle this system. That's why we say this, when this is absorbed in your system, because it disintegrates to these three components, we call it is natural. This is the first calcium ion supplement. And because of the weak bonding, it still has that charge, +2 charge, and it works together with hydrogen bond, and then it has a unique physical property. We call it flying calcium. When the water evaporates, it actually flies out together. All the other calcium, you can dissolve as much as you can, and you let the water evaporate, and you'll find that only a thick residue will remain in the bottom, right? But then this just flies out together with water. Its absorption is different. We call it passive transport, meaning that no ATP, no energy is required from your body to bring this calcium in. No digestion is needed. No peptide. No vitamin D. You just put this in an empty stomach, and within 30 minutes, 95 to 99% of it will be absorbed in ionic form. No protein-bound calcium. And your body recognizes this right away. It's not a standby calcium. This is the form of calcium your body can use right away. So here's the difference. Active transport of all the other calcium out there. In nature, you need vitamin D, peptide, and digestion is needed, and it goes in as protein calcium. That's how protein calcium looks like. But unless it gives off calcium ion, your body cannot really use it. Passive transport, you'll find that it's going in as calcium ion. Your body can use it right away. So calcium is absorbed in ionic form, right? It lasts about 4 hours in your system, right? And within that 4 hours, when the concentration of calcium ion goes on, even though it's a slight increase, your body can detect this. And it turns on the switches that we could not turn on before. And one of that is your pituitary gland will signal your thyroid gland to start massive osteoblast. Now, osteoblast is a bone-building process, right? We have more of osteoblasts really active when we're younger, but as we grow older, osteoblast declines and osteoclast, which is bone resorption process, is more activated. But now we can turn on the osteoblast the same way we're building bone when we're younger. And this is natural process. We're not manipulating our bone metabolism. And some doctors kind of ask, well, doesn't it cause hypocalcemia? No. Actually, the amount of calcium ion that we put in is so small, right? It does not cause calcification at all, or hypercalcemia. Look at this. When 4.3 to 5.6 milligram is considered normal calcium ion level, and up to 8 is considered mild hypocalcemia, we're just putting 0.1 milligram. 0.1. Now, that's not going to make much difference at all. But the thing is that our body is very sensitive to the changes, the fluctuations of calcium ion concentration, that even the slight change will be able to turn on this osteoblastic activity. And when that is turned on, then your body is also going to utilize all the protein calcium floating around, not doing anything, right? Because you're not doing bone stressing exercise or engage in activities that could really that use protein calcium. By taking this SAC calcium, now you can activate protein calcium. Not only that, it activates, it releases the calcification that you already have in your body. Whether it's kidney stones, whether it's in soft tissue, whether it's in cellular level, the calcium stored in your cells is the most dangerous calcium, but even that is released. So your body is doing this like spring cleaning, cleaning all the calcification and bring all this calcium back to your bone to build your bone rapidly. And the decalcification of your body restores the function of your mitochondria, cellular signaling, and overall health, therefore. So we call it calcium activator, and then we call it calcium navigator because it brings calcium to where it needs to go, and then it also builds your bones strong. So here is the calcium paradox. Most people fall under category A. Even though you're taking calcium supplements, somehow because of lifestyle, because of calcium loss, or you're going through too much stress in your life, your body still needs calcium ion. And when your body needs it, it has to reach out to your bone. So you get more parathyroid hormone-led bone resorption, you get calcium deposits, and then you're setting yourself up for degenerative diseases. Right? Whether it's ALS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, diabetes, hypertension, right? All these, right? Most people fall under this category. Now, category B, you're a more health-conscious person, right? So you're taking calcium from good source, magnesium, vitamin D, K, and you do exercise. So you may have less parathyroid hormone-led bone resorption. You'll be utilizing more protein calcium. Good for you. But you are just delaying this 5, 10, 15 years. This is a natural process. Your bone density will go down. It's not going up, right? It's going to go down. And as you age, your parathyroid hormone will always take out more calcium than needed. And that excess calcium just ends up calcifying your system. But then for the first time, because of SAC calcium, you can trigger osteoblast. You have thyroid hormone-led bone building, which balances calcium homeostasis and reverse degenerative diseases, right? Dr. Robert Heaney said, of course, all these diseases may have many causes, but they also all have one thing in common: calcium deficiency or breakdown of calcium homeostasis. It depends what part of the body you're looking at, right? Especially women, the menopausal woman, because of the drop of the growth hormone and sex hormone, osteocalcin and calcitonin. With age, all of that goes down, and then you do have more of calcium coming out from your bones, and that really causes excitotoxicity, right? So all this calcium is it's piling up in joints, cartilage, other tissues, bone spurs, your blood vessels, causes obesity, metabolic syndrome, colon cancer, gingivitis, and Alzheimer's disease. All of that are related to calcification, right? But I'd like to say that SAC calcium is not really calcium supplementation. You are just putting very tiny amount, but 5 milligram. Compared to 1,000 milligram or 500 milligram, the calcium tablets out there, you're just putting 5 milligram, but that just turns on switches to utilize all your calcium. Without this, you cannot really utilize all the protein calcium you're getting, even from good source, right? So we are actually making one claim, one scientific claim. We're not making any claims to actually cure or treat any diseases. But we made calcium that delivers calcium in ionic form, and everything else afterwards is our body's natural healing power because of the switches that the SAC calcium turns on. Right? And we have seen some remarkable results because of this. Dr. Lawrence Resnick is famous. He's the professor at Weill Cornell Medical College. His work is known connecting metabolic syndrome to the ionic link. It's all about ions. And recent research shows that senior women who have low bone density, I want you to know, low bone density are more likely, twice likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. If you look at cancer patients, you will find out that their bone density is really low. If you look at Alzheimer's patients, you will see their bone density is low, right? Whether it's ALS and Parkinson's, you'll find out there's some kind of correlation, right? When your bone density is low, then there's more chance of you're getting these degenerative diseases. That's because of calcification. There was no way to reverse this. You had to live with it. Let's say you walk into doctor's office, you're, let's say, 50 years old, and found out that for your age, your bone density was really low. Oh, we found out. Wow, osteopenia, getting close to osteoporosis. Now, there is really nothing you can do if you're found with that. You have to live with it. Maybe you may be taking some other osteoporosis drugs to try to reduce the rate of bone loss, but then that also comes with a lot of side effects. And osteoporosis drugs, because it works by messing with your bone metabolism, right? It's keeping dead bone density, a dead bone in the bone, and does not necessarily mean it's healthy. That's why people who've been taking bisphosphonates, after years, you walk down the street and then your bone just shatters, crumbles, and your bone starts to just decay, right? Why? Think about it. I think it's really important that you know this. Every day you do activities, and all these activities will give that micro cracks in your bone. Now your micro cracks has to be all cleared. It's called osteoclast. And then after that, you got to put fresh new coat of bone. That's how you maintain the integrity of your bone. It's fixed, repaired every day, right? When you're younger, you remove cracks, but then you put thicker coat, so your bone gets stronger, up to age 35. But after that, still, it repairs, but then it takes out more and puts very thin coat of bone. That's why your bone density goes down, right? But let's say you're taking these drugs and you're slowing down osteoclast. That's what bisphosphonates does, right? Whether it's Fosamax and all that, right? Your daily microcracks are not repaired. That means you are actually accumulating just to keep the calcium in your bone. You're just compromising your bone integrity. And that's why one day your bone will just crumble. So let's look at osteoporosis, right? Long-term follow-up study done in Denmark for 35,000 people revealed that people with strong bones in their 50s, I don't know if you ever measured your bone density. How many of you really measure your bone density to know your T-score, right? I hope they're good. But mostly, when we actually measured, we measured thousands of people's bone density with our own machine. And people don't know. It's usually pretty low, right? If you have strong bone in your 50s, studies found that you will live 11.6 years longer. Now, how much would you pay if you could live 11.6 years longer, right? But in Canada, you ready for this? 49% infants are born with calcium deficiency. 7% recover after breastfeeding, 3% don't. Good chance for ADHD and autism and all these things are coming, right? So, if you look at all the side effects of these medications, some cause cancer, right? Blood and stool, fatigue, stomach ulcers, hair loss, headache, blurred vision, heartburn. You don't want to go through this, right? So we published an animal study of SAC, and we compared the bone building power with regular calcium and SAC calcium for 9 weeks of study, found to be about 100 times faster and more powerful in bone building power. And we have also removed the ovaries from the rats and induced osteoporosis. But you can see here how the ovary-actimized rats started to lose bone density quickly, but with SAC calcium, it goes back to the normal. Here's actually one gentleman's case. About a period of 6 months, you will see how you see here how from osteoporosis he's nearing the normal level within 6 months. Something like this is considered impossible. This cannot happen. Even one case, this cannot happen. This woman, 60-year-old female, increased T-score of 1.4. She was in, the blue is before and red is after. So she had bone density in osteopenia region, and now she's in normal. She's actually way above the higher bracket for her age. It happened in 3 months. 56-year-old female had severe osteoporosis from -3.2 to -1.5, which is osteopenia, but definitely a lot better. That's the average for her age in 3 months of time. You will see here that for a 66-year-old, T-score increase of 1.4 in 4 months, and 62-year-old, 1.2 increase in 3 months. That kind of increase, it doesn't matter really how long it is, right? Let's say this happened in 5 years, you will still say it's like a miracle. If this happened in 10 years, you will say, wow, that's amazing. But you're getting older and older in 10 years, you cannot expect this to happen. This happens most of the time with SAC. I don't want to say, but this is definitely a breakthrough without any side effects. Another one. We have hundreds of these graphs. Look at this, -2.6 to -0.6. 3 month, T-score increase of 2. from osteoporosis to way up there normal. And this is for a 60-year-old male. This kind of reversal was considered impossible. Look at this. When a tooth is extracted, it leaves that cavity. And without bone graft, that cavity cannot be filled. With SAC calcium, after 10 months, fully filled. I've shown this in Asia Pacific Dental Congress where 15,000 dentists were gathered. And we asked these dentists, now, is this possible? All of them said, that's impossible. How is this possible? So you're not talking about just filling that cavity. You're also talking about strengthening your entire jawbone. What if you have loose teeth? Are you going to replace it with implants? It's going to be very costly. But does that really fix the problem? Right? You can take SAC calcium for maybe 3 months, and all those loose teeth will be all tightened again. Look, this is before, this is after. This is real. This is really happening. Before, after. You know what this means? This means actually your body is, every cell in your body is spitting out all that calcium stored. And your body is decalcified fully from cellular level. You know what that does to your mitochondria? As you age, your body temperature goes down and you have less energy. Why? Because of mitochondrial dysfunction. Mitochondrial free radical theory teaches us that because of calcium ions stored in the walls of mitochondria loses its function. So less energy produced. But the bigger problem is that your own mitochondria will be producing a lot of free radicals, reactive oxygen species. That's the main problem. Your own mitochondria becomes a factory of free radicals that you cannot neutralize by taking any kind of antioxidants out there. Any plant-based antioxidants is not enough to neutralize all this. So, free radicals coming out from your own cells, destroying your own DNA, RNA, proteins, and lipids, and all that. When that happens, your cell cannot function properly. Your cell cannot communicate. You see, the concentration of calcium ion, extracellular, intracellular, is about 10,000 times difference. You know why there's so much bandwidth? That's because calcium going in and out. It's how your cell communicates. Now, if you have too much calcium ion stored within the cell, you're reducing the bandwidth. Your cell cannot communicate properly. Everything breaks down. Inflammation happens because of this. I'm going to go into later, but this is also a major cause of autoimmune disease. Because your cell is doing wrong things. It's a protein production, there's damaged RNA, damaged DNA, it's all expressed in the cell surface, and your immune system is mistaking it as, what is this? Right? And then start making antibodies and start attacking your own cells. Look at this. As you age, you know that your teeth get longer, right? Why? Because your alveolar bone recedes, bone loss. With SAC calcium, you can see that how it's going up. What good is to take all that implants if you keep on losing your bones and then this happens, right? But your mouth has very strong stem cell. It's called human periodontal ligament stem cells. It synthesizes root cementum and it osteoblasts to synthesize alveolar bone, right? That very active stem cell, right? For most people with calcification, it's not as active. But once calcium homeostasis is restored, it becomes super active. You have mesenchymal stem cells all throughout your body. But as you grow older, it's not really active. A lot of it is because the communication is already broken down. Here's a young girl, age 10, with necrosis, bone necrosis. The hospital recommended amputation. Within 1 month, she got the keep her leg. Life changer. I want to say a little bit about stem cells. This is from the research. Acting as an intracellular messenger, calcium ion has a key role in cell signaling pathways in various differentiation stages of stem cells. Calcium ion-mediated signaling is essential for the maintenance of stem cells, promoting their development and differentiation. Right? It's all about communication. In the olden days, you were actually tuning the radio to station, right? You turn the knob, and then as it approaches the right station, right, you begin to hear louder volume, and then you start to hear some gibberish, and then when it hits the frequency right on, then you hear beautiful music coming out, right? Same thing with our stem cells too. Same thing with our cells. If you can really communicate clearly, then the power of cells self-healing multiplies. Here in human periodontal ligament stem cells, you need to have a very tight, close concentration of calcium ion and phosphorus ion, 2-to-1, but hardly anybody has this. But with SAC calcium, this can be restored, and that's why you see that kind of change happening all throughout your body. It repairs your damaged cells. And also, stem cells, these mesenchymal stem cells, can donate mitochondria to damaged cells by this all calcium ion process. So let's look at arthritis, right? Once it was believed that if your cartilage is worn out, that's it. You got to live with it, right? But do you know that your cartilage also has stem cells, chondrocytes, right? So even though you're taking a lot of good nutrients for your joint, because there's really no blood vessels going through your joints, a lot of nutrients is not really getting there. But calcium ion can go anywhere. It goes in there, and then it restores the function of chondrocytes, starts to rebuild. Look at this research. Cartilage formation requires a concerted action of numerous intracellular signal transduction molecules, many of which are sensitive to the changes of intracellular calcium ion concentration. If you don't have calcium ion at the right concentration, which is off for most of the people after age 35 and 40, right? It starts to go off, some people faster than the others, right? Then your stem cells are not really activated. Now, once this is restored, boom, they go and start to work and start to repair. We have seen so many arthritis patients with cricket fingers like this able to live normal life. All happens because, first of all, it clears that crystal deposits, right? And nothing really brings your body to slight alkaline pH than calcium ion. That's what your body naturally does, right? It really eases the pain, and it stimulates chondrocytes to rebuild cartilage. Right? And it also corrects your immune response around, right, those joints. So your immune system will not attack your own tissue. Right? So all these, the ways that SAC calcium works can really help arthritis patients. We have gout patients because SAC calcium dissolves all these crystal deposits. We had gout patients for 19 years, tried everything else, nothing helped. With all the organic food and the restricted diet, right, all the insoles he purchased and all the treatments he got, he says he spent tons of money. With SAC calcium, within days, he started to walk again. When I saw him in Singapore, I mean, he was out there with a barefoot, just, doing all those activities, and he says, now I can eat anything in moderation, he said. Now, this is a hot topic, cancer, right? Actually, a lot of patients are using SAC to battle their cancer. And SAC calcium does offer a lot of advantages. Why? I mean, first of all, a lot of cancers, carcinoma, produces lactic acid as its byproduct. But do you know that lactic acid is also food for cancer? And also, it is like an invisible cloak for your cancer. When lactic acid brings down the local tumor environment pH down to 6 to 6.5, your immune response turns off. It's like you're putting on invisible cloak and your immune system just passes by. Lactic acid can be efficiently neutralized by calcium ions. So when calcium ions are introduced, lactic acid neutralized. Now the invisible cloak is lifted and your immune system is turned on to see the tumor and start attack. Not only that, the researchers have shown here that a rise of intracellular calcium ion concentration is also required for efficient cytotoxic T-cell lymphocyte and natural killer cell function, and thus for killing their targets, in this case, cancer cells. It supercharges your immune system with calcium ion. So there's that double advantage. But here is interesting research. I need sound for this one. This one's in English.
When we look at cancer, and particularly cancer therapy, one of the interesting aspects of cancer that hasn't really been pursued that heavily is actually changing the extracellular pH environment. And this pH is very important for metastasis, growth, the things that actually cause cancer to kill people. And so what we wanted to do was discover a way that we could actually change this pH inside the animal. And to do that, we need to make a new type of material. And so this research, this publication, is really going over how we were able to take something as common as calcium carbonate and create brand new at the sizes that are necessary so that it goes towards and accumulates in the cancer itself and changes that pH locally and actually stops the tumor growth. Calcium carbonate is the same mineral that is found in limestone, in Tums. And what is really interesting about calcium carbonate that we found is that when you put it in blood, it doesn't dissolve. But when you put it in and let it reach the tumor environment where the pH is actually lower, you find that it does dissolve and it raises that pH up. So calcium carbonate becomes the system that we can use to change pH in vivo. And the nice thing about it is that you already have calcium in your body and you already have carbonate. And so as a result, our bodies can handle that system very, very easily. The research in large part was developing methods based off the literature and so forth that could make these small particles and keep it small so I could inject it and really make a difference in cancer biology. The tumor actually stopped growing while we had the injection going on. And then when we took it away, the growth recurred. One of the interesting things for us is we made a new nanomaterial that we could actually see a difference. And we could potentially make cancer a chronic disease. And if I can help one patient with this in my long-term sort of career, then all of it was worth it.
Well, here, they're using just regular calcium carbonate, which doesn't dissolve in your blood, but when it reaches that tumor environment, which is slightly acidic, it dissolves. And it gives off calcium ion. And then it actually stopped the tumor growth. But now we have something much better. We just put calcium ion directly in your system. Dr. Carl Reich said that he considered cancer as the ultimate adaptation to ionic calcium deficiency, tailor-made to survive and to thrive in an ionic calcium deficient environment. It's funny how you open up, let's say, a healthy cell and you find 100 calcium ions, let's say. How many do you think you're going to find if you open up a cancer cell? Maybe one, right? So there you go, right? There's correlation, cancer cells and calcium ion, right? But what's really interesting is, not all cancer is acidic. There's some cancer that is more alkaline because of production of ammonia. But calcium ion is smart. It can also neutralize ammonia. So it can work for both acidic and alkaline cancer. And by doing so, it can also help anorexia patients as well. But here, the solution to the second strategy, not just neutralizing the acidity and alkalinity, but here, this is probably the most interesting study done, connecting calcium ion to cancer. Right? Here, this research says that most cancers have either mutation within the p53 gene or defects in the ability to induce p53. So activation or reintroduction of p53 induces apoptosis in many tumor cells and may provide effective cancer therapy. In other words, what is p53 gene? It's called the guardian of a cell. So whenever a cell replicates, it goes through the cell cycle, p53 will look for any damages. Did I replicate correctly? And if there is some error that is repairable, then it will initiate repair. However, if the damage or the error is too big, then it actually induces apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. It's like a suicide, right? So that this unhealthy cell will die off and be replaced by a healthy cell, right? That's life cycle, right? But then somehow for the cancer cells, this p53 gene is turned off. That's why even though a lot of things are wrong, there's so much mutation, right? It's unhealthy, it continues to multiply and proliferate. So this is probably the most well-studied gene in the history of cancer research, because researchers thought, you know what, radiation therapy is from outside. It's attacking cancer from outside. Chemo is from outside. Immunotherapy from outside. But why not? If we can just turn this gene back on and let cancer come to the right mind and see that, whoa, I cannot exist. I got to commit suicide, right? Then let cancer cell die by itself. And a lot of researchers are done. And guess what they found out? They found out that cancer cells make too much NF-kappa B protein, which interferes with the function of p53. And by introducing calcium ion, it breaks the dance between the two and restores the function of p53. Another research found out that calcium ion can induce the production of nitric oxide, and it could trigger apoptosis. There's another research. What did I just say here? Switching p53 states by calcium. Another research shows that adding calcium ion can make p53 from less active to more active. And you can find tons of these researches, right? Here's another research. Experimental works of the past decade have highlighted the importance of calcium ion in the regulation of apoptosis. Sensitivity to apoptosis depends on the ability of cells to transfer calcium ion from the ER to mitochondria. Now, with calcium ion, you will find a lot of cancer cells just committing suicide. We had tumors, we had cases where, that's why when people who are using SAC to treat their cancer, we ask them to always measure tumor density, not tumor size. Because when tumor cells die off quickly, and then the tumor can be filled with fluid, and then it look more bloated. And then you maybe also experience the rise of cancer marker, not because cancer is growing that fast, because a lot of cases we've seen that the tumor is it's actually shrinking, but then cancer marker just rises through the roof. Why? Because cancer cells are destroyed and your body is trying to remove the residue, and you may find those proteins actually more present in your blood, right? So inducing apoptosis by turning on p53 is another way that calcium ion can be used. Now this is not, we're not talking about new medicine here, right? This is calcium ion's natural function. And a lot of research is already done correlating calcium ion with p53. And also, calcium ion is good COX-2 enzyme inhibitor. Now, COX-2 enzyme is a really strong inflammatory enzyme. And in some cancers, you find it elevated to 100 times or 60 times more. It fuels cancer growth, it increases cancer cell adhesion, and it enhances the cancer cell's ability to metastasize. Right? All of that can be, I guess, inhibited by calcium ion. Now, this is what I was talking about before. Boy, this happens to everybody. right? As we age, calcium ions get deposited in the walls of mitochondria. It produces a lot of reactive oxygen species. It damages cellular function, and it causes aging and cancer. Now, if you can reverse this for the first time, boy, you're restoring yourself from, I guess, the probably most damaging effect. Dr. David Sinclair actually discovered that when he enhanced the communication of mitochondria with your cell's DNA, he could not tell the difference between the 6-month mouse with 2-year-old mouse, right? So really young mouse and really old mouse, right? Cannot tell the difference. This is a test that we have done. Now, we actually had in vitro the heart cells, left it there, so it's kind of, it's not doing anything. It's cold. We introduced calcium ion, and guess what happened? Look at this. All these cells are firing again. The mitochondria is producing energy, it's producing heat again by introducing SAC calcium. This is outside the body, right? In vitro. Amazing. '80-year-old. So let's look at some clinical cases. I'm sure you're all interested. Diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2012, last stage. She tried chemo but failed. She was very sick when she came to us. So we gave her at the end of 2013, that's when she started SAC calcium, and she took it about a year, a little over a year. But then you can see how her blood works, shows everything's normal. And this is the graph, how she's still cancer-free, still very healthy. But look at her bone density. This is 80-year-old woman, minus 3.6 when she measured in 2013. But in 2015, her bone density shows minus 0.9. That's a normal level. No more osteoporosis. And guess what? When she did chemo, her kidney was destroyed. Its function was down to GFR 10%. It's back to 60%. Regeneration of damaged kidney by chemo is considered impossible. She's 80 years old. Here's a 35-year-old female with cervical cancer. 2 years prior, she did chemo, radiation, surgery, nothing worked. So May 14th of 2017, she got on SAC calcium, one of our products called Mauragen. And then a month later, you can see here that the red dot, right? You can see here that the tumor size MRI scan shows to be smaller. And August 3rd, white blood cell count is back to normal. August 18th, CT scan shows to be the mass is a lot smaller, a lot smaller. And after TrueCut biopsy, September 26th, she's declared cancer-free. This is her lab work from Las Vegas. 51-year-old male, adenoid cancer. The man on the right is actually the inventor of SAC calcium, Dr. Paul Lee. He had tumor with diameter of 3.5 centimeter and all the other smaller growth around it. This bigger tumor was removed surgically, but part of that with other tumors were left because it was so intricately intertwined with nerves and the blood vessels could not be removed surgically, and the oncologist recommended radiation treatment. He was scared because you're getting the radiation treatment right on your face and your head, and the prognosis of that was not that good. So that's when he learned about SAC calcium, and it started on Mauragen. And then about 3-4 months down the road, all the traces of remaining cancer disappeared. And this is his scan result. 72-year-old female with 4-stage lymphoma. You can see here, it just drains itself later on. taking 4 times a day for about 9 months, a little over 9 months. Leukemia journey, within about a month, the blood work resumes normal. Think about it. You have plenty of stem cells in bone marrow. Now you're stimulating, you're kind of regenerating your bone, right? You're increasing the bone, the turnover rate, and you're really fixing your bone, and including your bone marrow as well. So you're producing healthier blood cells. 18-year-old female, within 1 month, you can see how all the numbers normalize. 80-year-old leukemia, same thing, within 1 month, right? Here's 81-year-old male with colorectal cancer, liver metastasis stage 4. This gentleman could not even sit on a chair, but taking it for about 3 months, the new scan shows that everything is normal. The doctor called me though and said, why? The patient is so energetic now, he move around and the tumor's not showing in the scans, but why is cancer marker so high, right? When apoptosis happens in a really fast pace, then your body has to remove the remainder of the proteins from your body. It takes some time, so we'll see. For some patients, cancer marker might go up and then come down later. We had cases with breast cancer, with ovarian cyst. We had cases with brain cancer with the tumor size of 4 ping pong balls in the brain disappearing. One Navy pilot in the US had a tumor size of golf ball behind her eye, and that disappears. And we get all these, even pancreatic cancer. We don't have the full data of these patients, but then you can see how some of the patients, from the data that we have, is fully recovered. We did actually the animal test. We transferred colorectal cancer to the rats, and then when we did the test, when given the right dosage, about 3 weeks, after third week, 70% of tumors stopped growing and decreased in size. We actually gave SAC calcium to the athletic team, the swim team. They actually did the labs after taking SAC and found out that their lactic acid level over the days reduced, and then they all improved their swimming record. So it shows how SAC calcium can neutralize lactic acid. So we, for treating the difficult diseases like cancer and incurable diseases, we don't say cure, we don't say really that SAC calcium itself is curing, but then this is how actually calcium ion works. We just found a way to put calcium ion in our system, and this is our body's natural reaction to calcium ion. Right? So Maragen is actually the product that we use. Right? And boy, this is an exciting topic because a lot of elderly people are going through neurodegenerative diseases. Right? But did you know that more and more studies are confirming this? It's actually the disruption of calcium homeostasis in your brain that's breaking all, it's causing all the havoc, right? Whether it's Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, it depends on which part of your brain is targeted first. That's why if you see the advanced Alzheimer patients, you can see some Parkinson symptoms and some ALS symptoms. So before, we're just, let's say for Alzheimer's patients, we saw the buildup of amyloid and tau protein, and we thought, okay, what is the way to reduce the buildup of these proteins? But now we found out what was causing the buildup of all this amyloid beta protein and all that. It happens because of the abnormal, the calcium homeostasis in your brain that is really confusing all the cells to do the wrong things. Right? So it's cutting amyloid protein in the wrong place and makes amyloid beta, which our body doesn't know how to get rid of. All right? So look at this researches. These are new researches. This is what it says. Collectively, the available data show that perturbed cellular calcium homeostasis plays a prominent role in the pathogenesis of Alzheimer's disease. All these three, let me show you, here's another one, right? Because of these calcium ion signaling abnormalities, it tilts the balance of long-term potentiation and long-term depression of synaptic mechanisms. And because of this, the synapses are weakened and eliminated in Alzheimer's disease brain. It's all calcium. It's all calcium, right? Insufficient intracellular calcium ion content leads to abnormal functioning of neurons. And it says excessive calcium ion levels cause cell death, right? And then when actually they did the experiment, neurons died within 24 hours. What about Parkinson's, right? Here, because calcium ion signaling affects all aspects of neuronal cell biology, and this is from research, cells must tightly regulate calcium ion levels to avoid uncontrolled responses that could otherwise lead to pathological conditions and cell death. It's for Parkinson's disease. Another research, ALS, altered calcium homeostasis and calcium signaling pathway activation is one potential mechanism that accounts for at least 3 major and interrelated toxic pathways: oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, and neuroinflammation in neurodegenerative diseases such as ALS. It's all now connecting to calcification that's happening in the cellular level. That's why if you have low bone density when you're 50s and younger, right, these diseases will hit you earlier. You're setting yourself up for the avalanche of these degenerative diseases. For MS, same thing. I mean, I could go on and on with these research. You can find plenty of these online, right? 85-year-old male was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He would just walk and then fall to one side. He did the CT scan of his brain, and then ENT doctor checked his ears, did not know why he was losing balance, and he shows early symptoms of Alzheimer's, but all of that disappeared with SAC in just 2 months. And there was actually a doctor who gave this testimony. He actually given SAC calcium for his mother, and then about 3 weeks of taking SAC, he told me that, Jay, my mother had diabetes, and now her morning glucose sugar number is really low, that we have to adjust the medication. Yes, of course, because diabetes is also calcium ion dependent process, right? But not only that, about 3-4 months later, he told me again, Jay, I have to tell you something about my mother. My mother had dementia for 3 years. She could not remember me, my children, and my siblings. Her personality disappeared. And then he tells me, Jay, my mother's back. She remembers everyone. Her personality is back. Have you ever heard anything like this? Anything like this? 19-year-old male was diagnosed with early stage of ALS. Early symptoms of ALS disappeared after taking SAC calcium. With SAC calcium, by reversing calcification and restoring the function of these cells in your brain, the glial cells and the neurons, we can actually stop the progression of these diseases, and the minor symptoms can be reversed. 65-year-old male with late-stage ALS was not able to go to the toilet by himself, but now able to because of taking SAC. Right? 53-year-old male had swallowing difficulties, but now he's able to swallow, and this goes on and on with MS patients. Here's one testimony that a Parkinson's patient, all his Parkinson's symptoms are gone. So I'm presenting all these clinical cases as well as all the science, all the research already done, pointing to what the root cause was. And now we have something that could reverse that root cause. And these are the results that we are actually seeing. I want you to know that hypercalcemia, right, as we age, we take out calcium from our bones and it's accumulating at the cellular level, and then it causes oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, and it causes actually inflammation. And you heard inflammation is the cause of all disease. It's all related, right? Where inflammation is, guess what? Calcium goes there more to calcify even more. And then, when there is that chronic inflammation, you will also find autoimmune diseases happen too. So it's all because when these cells are not functioning properly, these cells are doing things that our body cannot really recognize as our own cell. So your T cells are actually producing antibodies marking your own cells because your cells are not really functioning properly. We have seen tremendous reversal of autoimmune disease, including rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, eczema, lupus. Look at this. This is one study. I mean, this is it's about MS, multiple sclerosis, which is considered autoimmune disease. Right? It says that ion channels modulation as a future strategy was brought into focus. In other words, it found out that actually these ion channels are not functioning properly, right? And that was the actual cause of MS, right? So in this context, it can be assumed that one leading mechanism is the reorganization and altered gene expression of different ion channels. Why do you think these cells are having the altered gene expression? Because of a lot of times, of course, it can be other toxins introduced, like heavy metals, right? But then you got to know that your own body's calcification, your own bone calcium depositing in cellular level will cause this. You know that a lot of doctors are talking about how a lot of people do get autoimmune disease after trauma, right? After going through a lot of emotional stress, right? That makes your body more acidic. It causes inflammation. Inflammation causes calcification, right? All of that is related. But now we have a way to reverse that calcification and restore the cellular function and correct immune response. This is one case of eczema. This patient tried everything. The doctor prescribed steroid cream, but didn't help. It's just a matter of weeks. And this is what she said, right? That the text was copied in the corner, but then she said, after taking Maragen, it just healed by itself. Lyme disease. There's a huge Lyme disease outbreak. But then if you look at all these symptoms of Lyme disease, you'll find something similar, right? Something similar. So the new studies shows that Lyme disease actually causes this oxidative stress in the cells. They actually found out. And they found out that it depletes intracellular calcium ion. Right? And also found out it causes mitochondrial dysfunction. Right? The way that the Lyme bacteria works is it really causes the same symptom that the calcification actually caused. And no wonder by restoring calcium homeostasis using SAC calcium that we've seen some really positive effects for the Lyme patients. So this is what the conclusion says. Taken together, we hypothesized that these imbalances could cause oxidative stress, depolarization of the mitochondrial membrane, disruption of intracellular communication, and release of pro-inflammatory cytokines, all of which could ultimately contribute to a condition mitochondrial dysfunction. Yes, that's why you see, if you look at Lyme patients, I mean, it's a terrible disease. It really sucks the life out of them, right? But then it's so closely related to the mitochondrial dysfunction. So by restoring calcium homeostasis, we have a good chance of restoring the damage done by the Lyme borreliose virus. Mike Kim, 11-year-old boy infected with Lyme disease, experienced fatigue, fever, migraine, muscle aches. He tried antibiotics, painkillers, but did not improve symptoms. But he has taken Maragen 3 times a day. All symptoms disappeared in about 40 days. And bacterial count, negligible. He's living a normal life. Osteocalcin is a very important hormone that's receiving all the highlights now after the 20 years of long research by Dr. Darrell. He's the professor of Columbia University. And his work was connecting osteocalcin, the hormone that you're going to start to lose after age 35, 40, right? It declines. But it's related to insulin synthesis, beta cell proliferation. So if you have good osteocalcin level, it's good for diabetes, right? It's a neurotransmitter production, so it's good for your memory function, right? Also, in the muscle, insulin sensitivity, right? And for males, it increases testosterone, right? It's all good, but then guess what? This osteocalcin is actually produced from osteoblast cells. That's why, because of his work, your skeleton system is now categorized as part of endocrine system, right? Because of this osteocalcin, right? But then, as your bone density goes down, your osteoblast activity goes down, your osteocalcin production goes down, right? But guess what we found? When we actually did the animal test, we actually measured osteocalcin level. It goes up with SAC calcium. Same, why? Because osteoblastic activity is increased, it builds your bone, and osteocalcin is produced by osteoblast cells. And that's why we had such amazing results with whether it's brain or pancreas, the insulin secretion and metabolism, and all of that was improving because of the increase of osteocalcin as well, right? So here's the result that we got from the animal test. Diabetes, I'm going to go quick because diabetes is now well known. This is ADA website, American Diabetes Association website. In recent decades, insulin resistance and secretion have been shown to depend on calcium homeostasis. That's it, right? So when your calcium homeostasis is restored, of course, along with healthy diet and proper diet, right? Your diabetes can receive a lot of help by taking SAC calcium. We had cancer patients taking our products for the breast cancer. She did surgery and then was recommended chemo, but then she refused. And just that's when she found out about SAC. So she got an SAC. But then after taking SAC for about 3 weeks, she told us, my morning sugar level was from 200 to 300, but now it's back to 100. She actually was taking 2 medications, metformin and Duo. She got off both of these medications to this day. And of course, her cancer is also completely, her cancer marker gone. This is the research that links how all these, it says here, oral calcium supplementation improves insulin sensitivity in patients with type 2 diabetes, right? We conclude that insulin is the potent immunomodulator and its signaling pathways are mediated by calcium concentration changes, right? If you don't have enough bandwidth, if you cannot really give that clear bandwidth signal, your body is not going to be able to regulate this. We have many patients reporting that really stubborn, the sugar level finally is going down. Cardiovascular disease. You've seen the video before how the heart was pumping outside the body, right, when calcium ion solution was flowing. Yes, you do need a good source of calcium ion for your heart to be healthy, right? With all the calcification, your cells cannot fire the electrical signals properly either, right? And your heart is not contracting where it's supposed to contract with the kind of force it's needed. So that's why you're getting all kinds of heart issues, heart palpitation, arrhythmia, and all this happens, right? With SAC calcium, with decalcification, with all those heart cells now recovering, you will expect your heart disease to, a lot of it really can even reverse. We have really helped a lot of patients with arrhythmia, even the worst cases arrhythmia patients now able to not take the medication and live a normal life. We had patients who are actually due for implant of pacemaker but didn't have to because of SAC calcium. Here is a really amazing case. Here's a man, 59-year-old male. He's an Iranian guy. He had mitral valve prolapse heart condition. His cardiologist declared that he was dying. He could not even get up from his bed. But then, when he found out about SAC calcium in 2011, he took it, and 3 months after, he began walking on the treadmill, and then 2 months later, he was jogging. I saw him about 5 years after. In 2016, I saw him. He was a very energetic man. Right? So excited about the new life that he found. And then he was talking about his sister who had really bad, severe rheumatoid arthritis cases, could not use her fingers, not able to use her fingers. And his son was so short, wanted to play basketball for the school team. And then took SAC calcium, and then he grew about 15 centimeters in about, what I remember, about eight months. So he was able to play. So really helping kids to reach their full potential. This is something that could be a really life changer. And you may wonder, why am I going to talk about HIV? It's very simple science. It's very simple science. We have given SAC calcium to many HIV patients, and their viral count came out to be the lowest ever. Why? This works for any kind of infection. When you think about it, the pathogens in your body, when it multiplies, it needs the phosphate, the phosphorus to multiply, because that's the backbone of RNA, right? If you actually take all of that excess phosphorus and back to your bone, because bone building is not just calcium alone, right? When calcium goes back to your bone, it's taking phosphorus back to your bone too, right? So your pathogens really do not have any building materials to multiply. And SAC calcium will maintain your body pH to ideal 7.4, and you know already that when slightly alkaline pH, pathogens cannot multiply. Not only that, calcium ion can bind to a certain place in RNA and stops multiplication. Actually, it was an interesting case in South Korea when there was a MERS outbreak. Initially, the country did not know what it was, and all those patients who displaying the same symptoms were brought into Samsung Hospital. And then later there they found out this MERS virus, right? But then all the medical team that received these patients all contracted MERS, except one young man, right? They still consider this as a mystery, right? This young man actually lived in Canada, in British Columbia, and he had leukemia. And he was treated with SAC calcium. His leukemia is gone. And then he was in South Korea working in a Samsung hospital, but he was taking the maintenance dosage, right, of our product. And he's the only one that escaped the MERS, right? We do have a book that you can actually go online and read, all the scientific base with references that you can really find, called SAC for calcium signaling, right? It's very important that we know that calcium ion is all about signaling. The greatest effect of SAC calcium you get is because of the signaling, right? So you could read about it in this book. This is man-made, but then this is natural when it's actually administered. It's the first calcium ion delivery system utilizing sigma anti-bonding, which is probably the unique chemical bonding that you cannot find in any other molecule on Earth. But then we made it possible. That's the scientific breakthrough of Dr. Pauly, and now implementing in calcium, it becomes, in a way, medical breakthrough as well. So we have products, all of this you can see in our booth. This is the product that we use for Alzheimer's patients. And then Megagen is actually Megagen is the product that we use for maintenance. If you're relatively healthy and you want to just maintain good bone density, ideal body pH, more energy and utilization of your protein calcium, this is more affordable product that you can take, right? What a great way, right, to prevent calcification. Cardigen is used for joints and arthritis. Maragen is the strongest product. This is about 4 to 5 times more potent than Megagen, our maintenance product. But a lot of cancer patients use this to try to, I guess, have the upper hand over the disease as early as he or she can. Asa Junior is the product that we use for kids, and Dentigen is the product that we use for the dental issues. It's very safe, has all the certificate of toxin test, and for patients with really difficult disease, like a cancer, 4 times a day for about 6 months. Then a lot of patients respond earlier, or some patients take all the way to 6 months. It all depends where you are and what kind of lifestyle that you live, right? If you combine this with good lifestyle, definitely you'll recover much faster. But definitely this is not a magic bullet, right? Everyone's conditions are different, right? But then we did have really good response with a lot of people. Again, we're not making any claims other than that we found a way to put calcium ions directly in our system for the first time. Everything else is protein calcium, right? It goes in your system as protein-bound calcium, not physiologically active, but it's the only thing that goes in and triggers these responses, and it's all our body's reaction that helped us see these kinds of results.
What booth number are you?
Oh, the booth number. It's under the doc of detox, Dr. Darrell Wolfe. Yeah, it's in the middle. It's in the middle. We have 2 booths. I'm sorry? 425 and 524. Yeah. Yes. Good question. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We're not putting any man-made chemical in our body, right? So there is really no side effect. But then you may expect, just like any natural remedies, some healing reactions, right? Not negative, right? But then definitely, if you're taking osteoporosis medication, you gotta stop taking it, because it doesn't really increase your bone density anyways, right? So you got to stop it until that medication, that drug actually exits your system. So give about 3 to 6 months, and you may be experiencing the increase of bone density. My aunt recently from Korea, adamantly she refused to her doctor's enforcement, right, and stopped her medication. And doctor was really upset. And then after about 3-4 months, she went back and measured her bone density. And the doctor kind of came and then he wasn't really happy, right? Even though he should have been happy for his patients. Have you been taking calcium supplement? And then my aunt just said, yes, I have been. Your bone density did increase. He couldn't understand why she stopped taking osteoporosis medication, and then my aunt's bone density still went up, right? So, but then for me, like for my case, I had a shoulder injury, probably had a lot of calcification. It was really hurting. I could not close car door at a certain angle, right? So when I really had taken this product for myself, boy, I had pain all around my shoulder for about 2 months. But I knew it was different kind of pain, right? It was so bad before that I was thinking about getting a surgery or something, right? Because even the weight of my arm is very bothersome. But then after 2 months, when that pain went away, all the pain went away. It's like new, right? So that kind of, for some patients may experience mild headache, some mild fever, some stomach issues. But we say about 20% of the patients, especially when the patient has a severe calcification, the decalcification process, your body is adjusting the balance. But if you can endure, we ask patients, if you can endure, it's good pains to go through, right? But we had patients actually with a really bad arthritis case said, oh, why is it swelling up? Why is it all reddish? Said, but then he took the picture and sent it to me. It looked worse than before, but then after a few months later, he sent me a new picture that all of that is gone. Now he says, I could run up the stairs, right? So these are the true, the clinical, anecdotal testimonies about that this actually happened. So, happens. Are there any patients who should not be taking this? Well, it's like if a patient has vitamin C deficiency, of course, if something deficient, something is beneficial, it's better that you take it, right? Same way, calcium ion deficiency, that's what we're taking out from our bones. If you put this in your system, it's all for good, right? We haven't seen any cases that really had some healing reactions were stronger, so we asked the patients to kind of reduce the dosage or stop it for some time and start again, but that was about it. I know you had...
What about high blood pressure?
Okay.
Does that help, let's say, the high blood pressure, people?
Yeah, all the metabolic syndrome is related to actually calcium ion. So high blood pressure over the hypertension actually takes a little longer, more time, but then we had a lot of patients who experienced and they had to adjust their medication, right? And then even the plaque in the blood vessels over the time, the calcium, calcification happens when you multiply the concentration of calcium with phosphorus and it is greater than 60 milligrams per deciliter, right? So when you're taking calcium ion from your bone, it is actually called bad calcium. You may wonder, well, isn't it the same calcium ion? But when the calcium ion is taken out from your bone, it also brings out phosphorus. And then it increases the calcification factor, right? So calcification happens all over your body, right? But with SAC calcium, triggering osteoblast, it takes all that excess calcium back to your bone, bringing calcium homeostasis. It actually starts to dissolve, right? It takes some time, of course. There are immediate benefits, faster ones, and there are more long-term use benefits. Yes?
What are the differences between all of them, like thyroid is certainly Mm-hmm. Use what it needs to use and then get rid of the rest, or is that?
What I would say is, with our patients is that if you did Merigen like for 3 months, then you could go on Megagen. Or if you wanted to go on Megagen, which is the weakest one, and you stayed on it, you'll have it. You'll have it all. It just won't come as fast because Merigen is 5 times stronger, and none of this gets wasted because you don't have to digest it. If the only time you get supplementation or food wasted is when your digestion is not working. So that's when you're tired and when you're sick, right? And when you're over the age of 35, because we know your whole digestive tract and all your juices are starting to not be there. Now, we did a really great video, and it's called The Truth About Calcium, and it's on my website at Doc of Detox. If you want to watch that, it's only 45 minutes long, and it goes into it, and we did another one too. So there's a couple on my website where we really go into it. But understand something. When you start taking this and you go to do anything, remember that the calcium is cement, isn't it? It cements your body. But the problem is, we need it as cement when it comes to our bones, but we don't need it as cement when it comes to our tissues and organs. And that's why everybody's in trouble now. Because everybody is in fear, doubt, and worry, anxiety all the time, inflammatory diets like crazy, EMF, Wi-Fi, blue light. Do I need to keep going? And this is all creating the acidity that's drawing on the calcium, displacing it into your bones, and that's why grandpa's as stiff as a board. You know when you get up at a movie, you go to a movie for only 2 hours, and you go to get up and you're really stiff? You sit for 2 hours all the time, but you didn't sit with 500 people with cell phones and all the blue light coming off the screen, and that's why you're so stiff, is because now you're so acidic. So what are you going to do to buffer that? So that's what's going to be the big problem in the next 10 years. You're going to see more people get sick in the next 10 years than you've seen in the last 100. And I'm telling you, I'll be doing my lecture, and it's called The Harvest. And if you look at there, I'm doing a show called 5G Blue Light Toxicity, because I have a show that I do every week on YouTube. And you're going to find out corporations are calling this next 10 years the harvest. They're going to harvest your money, and they're going to harvest your health. So, go ahead.
I'm not just laughing because that's so true.
It is true. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm not a conspiracy person, but understand something, and I'll put my reputation on it. You know, this is one of the best products you'll ever see in your lifetime. Okay? It's also one of the more expensive ones. And you know why? Because it actually works and does what it's supposed to do. And that's the reality of it. I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you, here's 2. And I put the testimonials already on my website last week. So I put new testimonials up all the time. This guy's got Lou Gehrig's disease. He's 200 pounds. He can't move. His wife puts him into the nursing home because he's gone there to die. So he can't even move, can't even lift his head up. So he's on the product for how long? How long is he on the product for? And he hasn't even gone on the perfect day diet that we have. And he hasn't done the fasting. But now, because he's on the product, he just went there to die. But he decided to do the calcium because he wanted to bring down the inflammation. And guess what? He was uncomfortable. He had pain, but he couldn't move his body. So I said, well, you might as well try this. So guess what? Now he's moving his legs and his arms. And he picks his head up and he can talk again. And he's moved back home. So now he's going to do the perfect day on my website called The Perfect Day Guide, and we're going to put him on a water fast with the calcium, and guess what? Don't watch if in 9 months he's not walking again, and it's an incurable disease. Let's take another lady that just came in last week. Okay, and this happened in my city, where I am in Kelowna. So this is a lady who has breast cancer, goes to her lungs, okay? So now her family can't look after her, okay? So where does she go? They send her to hospice in my city, in Kelowna. She goes to hospice to die. Her son-in-law was trying to talk her for like a month into taking the calcium. They wouldn't do it. So anyways, the family all came together because she has no love for herself, so she didn't want to spend the money. Meanwhile, she drives a brand new Mercedes-Benz, but she can't drive it. Do you understand? So anyway, so now she starts taking the calcium, and how long do you think it takes before she's out of hospice? 3 weeks. She's out of hospice, and guess what? Just last week, she came in to have a consultation with me to go further with the Perfect Day diet and try to get into the fasting with the calcium, because that's the ultimate. you want to unleash everything that God could give you, you do a water fast on the calcium and then find out what's really going to happen, because then you're going to create stem cells, autophagy, where you go in and you eat up the disease cells. The calcium goes in and it loosens up everything in your body, because the calcium actually acts as crazy glue with your fibers until it brings it together, and we call that a what? A tumor. And a tumor is not all cancer cells. A tumor is crystallization, calcification, and scar tissue with some cancer cells in it, so let's all just freak out. So when we start putting people on this, we'll put them on the calcium, and we'll find that even a tumor as big as a large peach, okay, about this big. All we have to do is put them on the calcium for about 3 weeks, and then we can go in, and it takes us about 40 minutes with a technique called Wolfe deep tissue, and we can bring that tumor down by 40% in 1 hour. Did you hear what I said? And we also have a money-back guarantee that you're not going to go to surgery for hip replacement or knee replacement or spinal surgery if you come in and come to us. Now, I give a money-back guarantee. Now, why am I doing that? Because I need the business, or because you've just been given the business? All right. Jay? Yes?
You are so right, because a few years ago, a woman wrote about the EMF smog in New York City, and that kind of was analog, but it fluctuated. The calcium ions in her brain, the calcium ions were raised and lowered till the calcium itself.
No, what the smog does, it actually calcifies the neurons, and so the ions can no longer move about.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they're walled off. And so what happens is, I'll tell you another story. This is God's truth, okay? So I got this lady, she's got Alzheimer's, right? Not just that. She sits here and she's like this. They come to my clinic. It's a Russian family. That's all she does. She came to my clinic for 1 week. Got her on the calcium as soon as she got there, got her on the perfect day diet, okay? All right? Okay, she was dying. She was sitting there dying, okay? So what did I do? She was dying. We put her on the perfect day diet just for the week that she was there, sent her home, and had her do 18-day water fast with the calcium, also my fulvic product, some Ormus, that was it, and a pinch of Himalayan salt. That's all she had, nothing else, all right? So guess what? Do you know what she dropped? She dropped 35 pounds, and it was all in her gut. She was bloated, and it was hanging down. It looked like an elephant trunk, yeah. And it shrunk right down. And guess what? Guess what? They came back down, and here's her. And her eyes are bright. So then, okay, I have to go up to this Russian community to teach 20 people to become practitioners like us, right? Because now they're just in. That's it. They don't care what they're going to spend. So I go up there, and guess what? Now, okay, she's having troubles, and the head pastor, he's upset because she's going back. He's so scared, and I go, no. Guess what? We put her on the fast, it detoxified her, the calcium has started sparking her brain, but now the calcium that's wrapped around the neurons is coming off, and so guess what? She can't sleep, okay? And she's also feeling dizzy. And I go, look give it 2 weeks, and guess what? And bring on the calcium even more, okay, and just do what I asked you to do. And I asked him to do a couple other things. I won't go into it. And guess what? She's smart as a whip. And guess what? It snowed up there, and she was out there shoveling. So understand something. You are the miracle. You're the miracle. Take a look on my website at the Ultimate Fasting Guide, the Perfect Day Guide, and then, you know what? Do your homework on this. And then guess what? Kiss off 80 to 90% of your supplementation. All right? Okay? And then understand something. There's no such thing as a fast unless it's a water fast. There's no such thing as a juice fast. It's a juice cleanse. And if you do juicing, you're still going to lose muscle. If you do a water fast, you don't lose muscle. You only lose disease cells. Did you get that? Okay, but nobody's going to tell you that because there's no money in it. Okay? All right. Okay. Go ahead, Jay.
Oh, no, she has a question for you as well.
You did you just do that to me?
No, I just forgot my head.
I know, I'm just goofing with you. Okay.
Some of your slides, like, there's one example from Manila. My mother-in-law is 87-year-old, diagnosed with leukemia, and she's dying. The doctor already said in 2 years' time she will die. Now, if I ask her to do that...
Okay, first of all, I want to say something. He's absolutely right as soon as you don't want to be a statistic. So stop acting like the herd, and you'll never end up at the butcher's. Go ahead.
So, if I'm going to recommend that to her, I think it's going to be the margin. She's having blood transfusion.
Yeah.
She's having some medications. And how many months will she take that just in case the...
So we're gonna look at 12, okay? We're gonna probably look at 12 months, but she may not need it till then. And if you come up at the table, I don't want to take everybody's time up. I'll give you some other tips. And then if you can give me a picture of what she looks like, then we can really rock this show. Okay, understand something.
But blood transfusion has to be stopped?
No. The blood transfusion is a bridge. Without it, she would die. Let's not throw everything off the table here. Let's give her a blood transfusion until her body can then take over. All right? The only reason why she needs a blood transfusion is because her blood is a bloody mess. Okay? So let's get the calcium where it needs to go, get the toxins down, and then her body will then make the blood it needs to make. All right?
But the other medications has to be continued.
No, don't stop anything. She'll forget taking the medication when she feels better. Right now, she just wants to numb the heck out because she doesn't want to be alive. Right.
Actually, she doesn't know that she's really sick and that she's dying in 2 years.
Well, that would be good too. Why would you tell somebody that, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I just was started to ask you when you talked about the with the diabetes, and I was thinking of the effect of dose of antigen for gingivitis, because I know that when you mentioned about the gout attack, there's an increased inflammation. So I guess as a health professional, how would you just mitigate that in terms of giving that 5 milliliter dose how many times? I know this is
How would you mitigate what?
I guess the inflammation that's happened with the gout attack or just the gingivitis attack, where there's a lot of like bone. I'm just skeptical of my body to be in an inflammatory state for the dentigen to work. I would think that my body would have to stop the inflammation for the dentigen to work.
No, taking the dentigen gets rid of the inflammation.
Yeah, so would there have to be a higher dose, like?
There's no higher dose. No, take the 5 mil. Take it every 4 hours, okay? And then in 3 weeks, you're going to call up and go, wow, this is amazing. The pain's gone. And they'll say, yeah, the pain's gone. Now the healing begins, okay? Because that's what you do. You take calcium to a fire, right? Okay? You take water and calcium to a fire. Oh, wait a minute here. You're doing 15 ounces of water with every 5 mils. Now you're drinking more water than you've ever drank before. And probably you're drinking water for the first time because everybody thinks they drink water out there, but nobody really does drink water. Okay? Every woman out there needs 3 quarts of water a day. It needs to be structured water because then you can digest it. It's pre-digested. Not alkaline, not distilled, not reversed, not spring, not bottled. And then, you know what? I'm going to tell you what I do with my patients, okay? The ones that really want to get their game on, I tell them that, you take the calcium just before you go to sleep. Now you're going to have to get up and pee. So when you get up to pee, take another one, then take another one first thing before your foot hits the ground in the morning. That's 3. And now you can get at least 2 more in, and you're going to rock that show. And then if you take a look at the Ultimate Fasting Guide and the Perfect Day Guide, and also look at your diet, seriously. And, we already know you have a bowel problem, okay? Because you can't have gingivitis unless you have a bowel problem, okay? Because, right, let's think about this. Front door, back door, right? It's just pinball. Okay, all right.
So if you have someone that, I guess, doesn't want to go through heavy detox?
Well, you won't go through heavy detox in any of our stuff. You got to understand something. The calcium stops the heavy detox. You can cut those headaches down. There's other things that I do to cut those headaches down. If you were to take our fulvic concentrate in your water, you're not going to get the headaches. Our fulvic is nano, and it will carry any nutrition that's in the body, up to 60 different nutrients into the cells. When it dumps it off, it's amazing. How's this? After it does that, it'll load itself up 3 times its weight with heavy metals and toxins from your cells, and it never ever touches your body. You remain asymptomatic. And do you know what fulvic is? It's the same plant life that dinosaurs used to eat. So it has a high vibration to it. So we use that, okay? And also, if you're detoxing, just take a little bit of Himalayan salt, put it on your tongue, and drink some water. And right away, it's going to help to keep balancing it, because most of the healing crises are electrolyte imbalance. And because you're detoxifying, and when you're detoxifying for the first while, you've got to remember something. It's glucose that you're dumping. Okay, and then you're dumping sodium. But nobody knows that with glucose, you dump sodium. So then their sodium goes down, which is their electrolytes, and then they go, wow, I'm having a detox. No, put a pinch of salt in your mouth and do this, and bingo, it's gone. There's tricks. Okay, listen. I have probably over 50 people on fasting right now, and they are not going through a healing crisis. A healing crisis is somebody who doesn't know how to juggle the system. And that's the truth. It depends on the product, and right now we have a 15% off until Tuesday. Okay? Their products are priced differently. Depends on the product. Of course, the Merigen is the most expensive, right? But then but we have to weigh out the results, right? The results of what it does. Think about everything else you take. And then think about how well it works. Well, not that well. You know, there's very few products on the market that actually work well.
SAC calcium really works.
Yes. No, you don't need a doctor's prescription. Yes. I know, I was just kidding.
For osteoporosis, I am diagnosed with high risk. For how many months should I take that?
Well, first of all, everybody in this room is high risk, because the planet does not have a conducive foundation for healing or health. So, the reality is, if somebody can afford it, I would say at least, do the Merigen. I would always say do Merigen first. And if not, if you've got a budget, let's take a look at what we can do. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And let's do it for at least 3 months, right, to 6 months. And then go and get a bone density test. That's always the best way to do it. But take a look at the Perfect Day Guide on my library and the Ultimate Fasting, and bring the calcium with that. And I'll tell you something. You will create miracles. I promise it. You will do it. You'll do it. Megagen, yeah, because guess what? If you had a 20-foot hole, get a 20-foot ladder. If you don't have a hole, you don't need a ladder. Just cruise. Yeah.
Guess our time's up.
Yeah, and then the crowd roared. Whoa. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.